It all started with a single text message, one I wasn't supposed to see. But once I read it, there was no going back. I was sitting at my desk in the corner of my tiny apartment, sipping lukewarm coffee, and scrolling through emails from clients who couldn't decide if they wanted their logos minimalist or flashy. The late afternoon sun filtered through the blinds, casting long shadows across my workspace. My phone buzzed on the table next to me, a notification from Evie. She'd been blowing up my phone all day, which wasn't unusual. Evie always had something to say. Gossip about mutual friends, complaints about her latest client, or just random thoughts that popped into her head. "Hey girl," the text read. "Can you send over those sketches for the Greenfield project? Clients being a pain." I frowned. The Greenfield project? That didn't sound right. I'd never heard of it. Maybe she was confusing me with someone else. Before I could respond, another message came through, a screenshot this time. It was an email chain between Evie and one of our shared clients, discussing design revisions. At first glance, it seemed innocent enough. But then I noticed something chilling. Attached to the email was a file labeled Seri_concepts_final. My stomach dropped. Those were my concepts. Sketches I'd worked on weeks ago for a completely different client. What was Evie doing with them? For a moment, I stared at the screen, my mind racing. Was this some kind of mistake? No, Evie knew exactly what she was doing. I could feel it in my gut. My hands trembled as I opened the thread further, scanning the rest of the conversation. Words like originality and unique perspective jumped out at me, but not in reference to my work. They were praising her creativity, crediting her with ideas that weren't hers. The room felt suddenly smaller, suffocating. I gripped the edge of the desk, trying to steady myself. This wasn't possible. Evie was my best friend, or so I thought. We'd met in college, bonded over late-night study sessions, and dreams of making it big in the creative world. She'd been there when I landed my first freelance gig, cheering me on like nobody else. And now this? A knock at the door startled me. I shoved my phone into my pocket and took a deep breath before answering. Standing on the other side was Evie herself, holding 2 cups of coffee and grinning like nothing was wrong. "Surprise!" she said, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. "Thought you could use a pick-me-up." I forced a smile, though my insides churned. "Thanks. That's sweet." She handed me one of the cups and flopped onto my couch like she owned the place. "So, how's life treating you?" "Still slaving away at those designs." Her tone was light, playful, but every word felt like a jab. I nodded slowly, clutching the coffee cup tighter than necessary. "Yeah, same old grind." We chatted for a while about everything and nothing, but my mind kept circling back to the messages on my phone. Every laugh, every casual comment Evie made seemed laced with hidden meaning. When she finally left, promising to check in later, I locked the door behind her and leaned against it, letting out a shaky breath. What was I supposed to do now? Confront her? Pretend I hadn't seen anything? Neither option felt safe. All I knew was that something was terribly, horribly wrong, and I couldn't unsee what I'd already seen. As I picked up my phone again, scrolling through the damning evidence, one thing became clear. Whatever trust I'd placed in Evie was gone, shattered, and I had no idea where to go from here. But then, as I scrolled further, something caught my eye, a name mentioned in passing within the email chain. Someone I recognized. Someone who might know more than they were letting on. The pieces were starting to fall into place, but I wasn't ready for what they would reveal. Not yet. The name in the email chain was familiar, too familiar. It belonged to Marcus, a former colleague I hadn't spoken to in months. He'd worked alongside Evie at her last job before she went freelance, and we'd occasionally collaborated on projects. If anyone knew what Evie was capable of, it would be him. I hesitated for a moment, staring at my phone screen. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to pretend I hadn't seen anything incriminating. But that wasn't who I was. I couldn't let this lie, not when my work, my reputation, maybe even my future was on the line. With a deep breath, I pulled up Marcus's number and sent him a quick text. Hey, can we talk? Need your advice on something. His response came almost immediately. Sure thing, Sarah. Everything okay? I didn't answer right away. How could I explain this without sounding paranoid or unhinged? Instead, I typed back, not really. Can we meet tomorrow? Coffee. He agreed, suggesting a cafe downtown. As I set my phone down, guilt gnawed at me. What if I was wrong about Evie? What if there was some logical explanation for all of this? A misunderstanding, a mix-up. The thought made me sick because, deep down, I already knew the truth. There was no innocent explanation for using someone else's designs and lying about it. That night, sleep eluded me. Memories flooded back unbidden. Moments with Evie that now seemed tinged with betrayal. Like the time we brainstormed ideas for a charity campaign over wine and takeout pizza. I'd pitched a concept I'd been working on for weeks, only for her to dismiss it as too niche. A month later, she casually mentioned pitching something similar to one of her clients. At the time, I chalked it up to coincidence. Now I wondered. Or the time she asked me detailed questions about an upcoming project, a logo redesign for a local startup. She'd acted curious, complimenting my vision and offering vague suggestions. Looking back, it felt less like interest and more like reconnaissance. My chest tightened as anger bubbled beneath the surface. Was this why she'd stuck so close to me all these years? Not out of friendship, but because I was useful? Because she could feed off my creativity while pretending to support me? By morning, exhaustion weighed heavy on my shoulders, but I forced myself to get dressed and head to the cafe. Marcus was already there when I arrived, nursing a cup of black coffee and scrolling through his phone. He looked up as I approached, smiling warmly. You look like hell, he said, half joking. Everything all right? I slid into the seat across from him, clutching my own coffee like a lifeline. Honestly, no. Something's come up and I don't know what to do. He frowned, setting his phone aside. Okay, tell me. For a moment, I debated how much to say. Then I pulled out my phone and showed him the email chain, the one with my designs attached, the glowing praise directed at Evie. His expression shifted from concern to disbelief. This is messed up, he said, finally shaking his head. But honestly, Sarah, it doesn't surprise me. What do you mean? My voice cracked slightly, betraying my unease. Marcus leaned forward, lowering his voice. Evie's done stuff like this before. Back when we worked together, she took credit for another designer's pitch. The guy almost lost his job over it until people started asking questions. My stomach churned. Why didn't anyone say anything? He shrugged helplessly. She's good at covering her tracks, and most people are too scared to call her out. She's got connections, you know? Friends in high places. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. All this time, I'd trusted her enough to share my ideas, my dreams, my struggles. And she'd been playing me the whole time. As Marcus talked, pieces of the puzzle clicked into place. The late-night texts where she fished for details about my projects. The way she'd subtly downplay my contributions during group meetings. Even the times she'd encouraged me to lower my rates, claiming it was better for business. It was all part of the game, a calculated manipulation designed to keep me small, while she climbed higher. When I left the cafe, my mind was reeling. Every interaction with Evie replayed in my head, each memory tinged with new clarity. I should have confronted her then and there, demanded answers. But fear held me back. Fear of what she might say, or worse, what she might do. That evening, I found myself staring at my laptop, absently scrolling through old design files. One folder caught my eye, a collection of rough drafts and unused concepts. Clicking it open, I froze. Several files were missing. Files I distinctly remembered saving. Files that had been sitting untouched for months. My hands trembled as I checked the timestamps. Someone had accessed them recently. Someone who knew exactly where to look. And just like that, the final piece fell into place. This wasn't just about stealing my work. It was about erasing me entirely. But how far was she willing to go? And how far would I have to go to stop her? The next morning, I woke up to a notification on my phone, a tag in an Instagram post. My heart sank before I even opened it. There she was, Evie, posing with a certificate and a smug grin, captioning the photo. So proud to be recognized for my hard work. Couldn't have done it without my amazing support system. Below the caption were comments gushing over her talent and vision. I clicked through to the album she'd posted, photos of her designs displayed at some fancy awards gala. Each image felt like a punch to the gut. They weren't just similar to mine, they were identical. The same color palettes, the same typography, the same layouts I'd spent countless late nights perfecting. Designs that had never been published, files that only existed on my laptop. My hands trembled as I scrolled, anger boiling beneath my skin. How dare she? How could she stand there, smiling, knowing what she'd done? And worse, how had everyone fallen for it? Friends who'd known me for years were congratulating her, praising her creativity. Clients who'd once trusted me now doubted my integrity. One even sent me a curt email accusing me of plagiarizing Evie's work. By noon, the fallout was undeniable. 2 major clients canceled their contracts, citing concerns about originality. Another ghosted me entirely after seeing Evie's post. Panic clawed at my chest as I stared at my bank account balance, already too low to cover rent next month. This wasn't just personal, it was survival. But I couldn't let myself spiral. Not yet. Instead, I channeled every ounce of rage into action. First, I backed up every file on my computer, encrypting them so no one else could access them again. Then I started digging deeper, combing through old emails, cloud storage logs, anything that might prove what Evie had done. It didn't take long to find more evidence. Hidden in plain sight were timestamps showing when certain files were accessed and by whom. IP addresses traced back to Evie's devices. Drafts of emails where she casually mentioned borrowing ideas from other designers. Even screenshots of private messages where she manipulated mutual acquaintances into questioning my credibility. Every discovery fueled my determination. If she thought she could destroy me, she was wrong. Dead wrong. With the evidence piling up, I began crafting my plan. It had to be smart, calculated, undeniable. First, I embedded subtle watermarks into copies of the stolen designs. Invisible to the naked eye, but detectable under specific filters. They would expose her fraud the moment anyone looked closely enough. Next, I reached out to a few trusted colleagues, people who'd witnessed Evie's behavior firsthand, and asked if they'd testify if needed. To my relief, most agreed. They'd seen her tactics before and wanted justice as much as I did. Then came the anonymous tips. Late one night, I drafted emails to several influential design bloggers and industry watchdogs, hinting at plagiarism allegations against Evie. I attached encrypted files containing the watermark designs and promised more proof if they investigated further. By morning, whispers of scandal were spreading across social media. As I worked, something unexpected happened. I uncovered another layer to Evie's betrayal. Buried in old conversations between her and Marcus, I found references to a former colleague named Claire. According to Marcus, Claire's career had imploded years ago after Evie accused her of stealing work that wasn't hers. The accusations turned out to be baseless, but by then the damage was done. Claire lost her job, her reputation ruined. Reading those messages left me cold. This wasn't just about me anymore. Evie had a pattern, a trail of wreckage behind her, all for the sake of climbing higher. She wasn't just dangerous. She was toxic. And if I didn't stop her now, she'd keep destroying lives. One evening, as I sat hunched over my laptop, Evie called. Her name flashed on the screen, taunting me. For a moment, I considered ignoring it, but curiosity got the better of me. I answered, keeping my voice steady. "Hey," she said, sounding uncharacteristically hesitant. "I saw your posts. People are saying weird stuff about you. Oh, I replied, feigning innocence. Like what? She hesitated, then sighed. Look, Sarah, I don't know what's going on, but maybe we should talk. Clear the air. Clear the air? After everything she'd done? The audacity made my blood boil, but I forced myself to stay calm. Sure, I said lightly. We can talk. But first, tell me this. Did you really think you'd get away with it? There was a long pause. When she spoke again, her tone was icy. Get away with what? I smiled, though she couldn't see it. You'll find out soon enough. And with that, I hung up. As I set the phone down, a chill ran down my spine. Whatever happened next, I knew one thing for certain. Evie wouldn't see it coming. The night of the networking event arrived, and I stood in the corner of a sleek, dimly lit gallery space, clutching a glass of sparkling water. The room buzzed with chatter. Designers, clients, journalists, all mingling under the pretense of collaboration, but really sizing each other up. Evie was already there, holding court near the center of the room, her polished smile never wavering as she worked the crowd. I felt sick watching her. Every laugh, every compliment she received felt like salt in an open wound. But I reminded myself why I was here. This wasn't about revenge, it was about justice. For me, for Claire, for anyone else she'd crushed along the way. When it was her turn to present, she stepped onto the small stage set up at the front of the room. A projector screen lit up behind her, displaying her so-called award-winning portfolio. She began speaking confidently, weaving a narrative about her creative process and vision. Her words made my stomach churn, but I stayed silent, waiting. Midway through her presentation, the first watermark appeared, a faint shimmer across one of the designs. At first, people murmured, thinking it might be a glitch. Then another popped up, more pronounced this time. And then another. Gasps rippled through the audience as the slideshow continued, each slide revealing not only the stolen work, but also timestamps and metadata linking them directly to me. Evie froze, her face draining of color. She fumbled with the remote, trying to stop the presentation, but it kept playing. Someone in the crowd shouted, "What's going on?" Others demanded answers. Panic flickered in her eyes as she turned to the tech guy operating the equipment, but he just shrugged helplessly. He hadn't been the one to trigger it, I had. That's when I stepped forward, walking calmly toward the stage. Cameras flashed as journalists scrambled to capture the chaos unfolding before them. I reached the podium just as Evie tried to speak. "It's not what it looks like," she stammered, her voice cracking. "Someone hacked my files." I held up my phone, projecting screenshots of emails and timestamps onto the same screen. "No, Evie," I said, evenly meeting her gaze. "It's exactly what it looks like." The room fell silent except for the soft hum of the projector. Everyone stared at the evidence, the irrefutable proof that she'd stolen my work, manipulated others, and built her career on lies. She opened her mouth to deny it again, but no words came out. Instead, she glared at me, venom in her eyes. "You think you're smart," she hissed, low enough for only me to hear. This isn't over. But it was. As security escorted her out of the venue, reporters swarmed around me, asking questions. How did I uncover the truth? What would I do next? For the first time in weeks, I felt lighter, like a weight I hadn't realized I was carrying had finally lifted. In the days that followed, the story blew up. Journalists dissected every detail, exposing not just the plagiarism, but also the pattern of betrayal Evie had left in her wake. Clients cut ties with her completely, and legal action soon followed. Meanwhile, offers poured in for me, contracts, interviews, even invitations to speak at industry events. My name became synonymous with resilience and integrity. To mark the end of this chapter, I donated part of my earnings from new projects to a mentorship program for emerging artists. It felt right, turning something painful into something meaningful. As I sat alone one evening, reflecting on everything that had happened, I thought about how far I'd come. Betrayal had nearly broken me, but it had also forced me to fight back, to reclaim my power. Sometimes, I whispered to myself, staring out the window at the city lights, standing up for yourself isn't about revenge. It's about reclaiming your power. And let me tell you, there's nothing more satisfying than watching karma come full circle. If you were in my shoes, would you have exposed her publicly or handled it differently? Let me know in the comments.